Hope in destruction. In Mark chapter 13, verses 24 to 27, Jesus tells of the terrible destruction of the end times and the hope of his return. Jesus will send out his angels to gather his chosen ones from all over the world. As Christians, we can abide in the hope that even when all is destroyed and all are suffering, God will prevail. Christ will return, and we will reside in heaven. My faith and hope come from observing God's creation. Destruction and rebirth are a natural part of God's design. As a forester and wildland firefighter, I had the privilege of seeing this over and over again throughout my career. As children, we watched Bambi and his mother trying to escape the destructive wildfire consuming their forest home. We learned from Smokey Bear that we must be careful with fire. An unintended campfire can destroy our forests and the animals that live there. But forests are reborn following destruction. Baby trees and fresh plant life spring up very quickly. Some trees, like lodgepole pine in the west, jack pine in the Lake States, and Table Mountain pine in the Appalachians, need fire to reproduce. The cones of these species are sealed shut and only release their seed when heated by a fire or strong sun following timber harvesting. During the Yellowstone fires in 1988, I worked on the Targhee National Forest just outside the park. I often counted 40,000 seedlings per acre when doing regeneration surveys in the years after the fires. Prior to the Yellowstone fires, a native insect called the mountain pine beetle had killed most of the lodgepole pine on the forest and in the park, another type of destruction. The cones remained sealed on the dead trees. We used timber harvesting to salvage the dead trees, simulate forest fires, and regenerate the forest. If you visit the Targhee National Forest today, 34 years later, it looks like a forest again. Some people consider timber harvesting to be destruction, and in some cases it is. When timber is cleared and not regenerated, perhaps for a housing development, a shopping center, or massive agricultural conversion, as happens frequently in areas like South America, the ecological benefits of the forest are destroyed. However, when timber harvesting is properly planned and executed to mimic natural processes, the ecology of the forest can be preserved and maintained in a manner safer than large wildfires. When I was in college, I experienced the eruption of Mount St. Helens firsthand. We were on a class field trip when the volcano blew and had to sleep on the floor of the Coeur d'Alene Tree Nursery in Idaho for several days before we could return to school in Missoula. 1 year later, we visited the blast zone on another field trip. The landscape around the volcano was almost barren, but there were small signs of life already. Here's a fireweed, a plant that loves fire and other types of disturbance. God has designed some plants and trees to thrive in the face of destruction. These pioneer species lay the foundation for less tolerant species to recolonize the area later. As Christians, we can lay the foundations of hope for others who are suffering in the face of destruction. God does not abandon us. God cares when one or more of us are suffering. We can be more resilient by observing nature, serving those who suffer, and fully relying on God's grace. Resurrection, rebirth, creation from destruction, hope. Amen.